So she referenced a book by Ken Powers called The Yellow Birds. Is that right? Kevin Powers, and asked if I'd read it, and kind of elaborates on the tension that the book talks about between soldiers, and talks about the war from a soldier's perspective as it relates to insurgents in Iraq and Iraqi civilians and things like that. I haven't read the book, first of all, so I can't speak to the book per se, but I'm familiar with the genre, and I've read quite a bit in that genre. More than the genre and the reading, they're my friends. You know, I mean, they're the doctors I hang out with in Fallujah. They're the parents that drive from 12 hours away to give me a file and introduce me to their child to see if we could save their child's life. They're the politicians who have somehow survived through all these years to continue to try and rebuild their provinces. It's just a mixed bag. I mean, most of the people I know, there's very few people I know, and I don't know if this is a little bit of like the Philippines story or whatever, that it's like that there's a face-saving element here, and so they only tell me so much. But honestly, most of my conversations are marked with a real sense of nuance. I only have a few people who have just fully blasted the U.S. military, the whole war, George W. Bush, and just said it was all for nothing. It was completely ridiculous. That's not the common thread that I hear. What I hear much more regularly is it was horrific. It was hellish. America was wrong. It made a ton of mistakes, and it's so good that Saddam's gone. And life can improve now, and we hate it, and why did it have to be like this, and why did you do things the way you did it, and look at this new hospital. And you know, it's like this, it's just constant, like you can't draw a line and say it's all this or it's all that. It just is terrible all the way around, with all kinds of potential and possibility that could come out of it. And before moving to Iraq, I wrote a song in a season of trying to understand some of this stuff, and it was a very, very short song that made reference to this idea that I want to say this delicately, that a child that comes from an illegitimate relationship, or even a forceful sexual relationship, a relationship of force, that child can still grow up to be beautiful. That child is inherently loved by God. That child is good. It doesn't mean that the forceful act itself was good. I think that still holds in Iraq. I think that's where most people are, is that there's a sense of having been molested, raped, but there is so much good that can come out of it, that people are trying to move on and trying to focus on the future and trying to focus on raising up this child that they now have that is the product of this relationship. I don't know. I don't have an answer, because there's just not a clear answer. How can we make it better? I think relationships help make it better, and I don't know how I can put 35 million Americans alongside 35 million Iraqis and help that work, but we're doing our part. You know, we do what we can to bring pastors over from America to Iraq to spend time in the homes of Muslim clerics. We spend our time and money to bring Muslim clerics over to America to spend time speaking in churches and at conferences and having private conversations with American politicians and church leaders. And we've seen some tremendous fruit in that way, and I think that it gives everyone a little bit more to hold on to. It gives everyone a little bit more to go back to their community, and when they each hear those bigoted statements about the other, to say, whoa, that may be true of a lot of them, but let me tell you about the guy I met. So that's what we spend a lot of time doing, just trying to make those personal connections.